Hello again, everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Sunday's edition of Alaska Weather, 27th day of June, 2021. I'm Dave Percy, a meteorologist with the National Weather Service, hosting today's show. Let's see what the first graphic is today. Hot afternoon, or hot day in the southeast coast. Higher down south, Prince of Wales Island had 91 degrees at mid-afternoon. These aren't the highs, these are mid-afternoon temperatures. Klawock and Stewart both at 84 degrees Fahrenheit. Up to the north there, Haines, actually along the Haines Highway, 82 degrees, and Hoona had 80. And just about everywhere else was in the 70s with a lot of sunshine. And going from the hot weather, we'll see the fire danger map. And a pretty expanded area up in the Yukon Flats along Yukon Porcupine River with a pretty good area of extreme fire danger in that zone with high to very high fire danger extending down toward the White Mountains and into the greater Fairbanks area, as well as on the west side of the Alaska Range there, just northeast of the Kuskokwim Valley. Also an expanded area, eastern Seward Peninsula and Selawik Valley there near Kotzebue, and then out toward Teller as well. That's probably the lowest of the higher areas there. Otherwise, around the state, pretty good. And as far as I saw, I didn't see the southeast coast there where the hot temperatures have been rising into the high fire danger area there yet. But another day in the 90s down there, and that may happen. Otherwise, on the chart, or the warning chart, we have a flood advisory out in the. It's actually for a single river, the Striking River, Central Inner Channels, and that's at 2:15 p.m. Sunday. Flood stage was reached along the river, so looking for minor flooding to continue at least through 2 p.m. Monday afternoon, as it may get a little higher than flood stage, and then up to the north. And these are all due to snowmelt, obviously, not rainfall, just the very high 12 to 16,000 foot freezing levels, resulting in some good snowmelt, the higher elevations. And so flood washes continue through Tuesday night, through late Tuesday night. Double check that. Yes, through late Tuesday night there for the northern inside water areas, right on up to Skagway. So all the streams in those shaded areas there under flood watch, again, for snowmelt and rising water levels. So moving from this chart into satellite imagery, you can see clouds heaviest over the western part of the state, lifting north and northeast, with that upper level disturbance weakening as it kicks off to the northeast. Areas of light rain in the west today, anywhere from, down Togiak, 2/10 of an inch. Those are 12-hour amounts. Russian Mission, St. Mary's, about 1300ths. Golovin, south coast of the Seward Peninsula, east of Nome, 1700ths of an inch. And let's see, Selawik had about 1/10 of an inch. That's good for a wetting rain. And also, eastern Arctic coast there, thunderstorms today, or eastern North Slope thunderstorms, eastern Brooks Range, and there's anywhere from 1 to 3/10 of an inch of precipitation has fallen with those showers and thunderstorms at the rain gauges that were hit up there. Otherwise, much drier along the North Gulf Coast today, even though there's still a fair amount of mid and high level clouds streaming northward, where that flow of moisture really dried out from what it was a couple of days ago. And you got the hot temperatures to the east of that band, and then cooler temperatures to the west. Front pushing into the Aleutians with some rain and breezy conditions. Nothing too heavy, either rain or wind-wise out there. And then an Arctic front pushing down to the western Arctic coast, increasing the clouds there this afternoon. They'll pick the winds up and the chance of precipitation here tonight into tomorrow. And roll that through again. You can see all the features in motion. Also the hot temperatures, western Canada, British Columbia, up into the Yukon, in the clear area there, temperatures in the 90s, the lower hundreds this afternoon. Otherwise, clouds and showers, areas of light rain, as we mentioned, from the northwest, western Brooks Range, across the Seward Peninsula, right on down into the, Alaska Peninsula with the showers. Also, gusty winds in the head of that front. Winds already kicking up over the north and northwest interior. Let's see. Let's see. 35 to 50 mile an hour winds, western Brooks Range. Cape Lisburne had a peak wind gust of 52 miles per hour today for the wind there. And windier conditions should increase along the Arctic coast, and they'll gradually spread eastward. But even the Kobuk, maybe the Koyukuk Valley and the Noatak Valley could see an increase in the winds tonight into early tomorrow, but not so to the south. Front out to the west there tonight pushes eastward, rain and fog into the central Aleutians, rain, fog, and drizzle, that weak trough into the Pribilofs and eastern Aleutians. Showers on the diminishing side there, or diminishing pattern for the southwest coast into the southwest interior, but will linger throughout the night. Dry in the interior, chance of rain and snow, gusty winds, central western Arctic coast, and a very mild to very warm evening for the panhandle and overnight period. And then tomorrow, back to sunshine, mostly sunny. Temperatures quite warm again. Hard to say if they'll reach the 90s. The gradient's starting to tighten up there from west to east, so that's going to eventually drive some marine air in over the area. But Arctic front, periods of rain up to the north, and then showers and rain. I'll call it western Cook Inlet into the Kuskokwim Valley, tapering off in the southwest interior. And then the outlook for Tuesday, that frontal system energizes, brings possible gale force winds to the Alaska Peninsula eastern Aleutians, with rain to the Pribilofs and rain and snow now north slope into the Brooks Range, and more clouds, cooler temperatures, chance of a thunderstorm over the panhandle. Lows for tonight down that way in the 50s to lower 60s, and 40s and lower 50s over the interior. Mid to upper 30s central Arctic coast, lower 40s northern Bering Sea, St. Lawrence Island, Seward Peninsula, 40s, mid 40s for the Bering Sea and the Aleutians. Highs tomorrow, 40s and 50s, pretty typical out west there, and 50s mid to upper for the west southwest interior, lower 50s for the northwest coast, and near 70 Fairbanks area, and mid to upper 70s for the panhandle. And let's see, bounce it ahead to Tuesday afternoon.
And now, aviation weather around Alaska.
Moving on to flying weather, Monday morning. IFR, North Slope Arctic coast, down across the western Brooks Range, the Long Mountains, Kivlina, and near or just west of Shishmaref, over including Nome, and IFR to St. Lawrence Island. Just about all of the Bering Sea and all of the Aleutians are IFR, Pribilofs into the southwest coast, Togiak Bay, Auckland, Buckland Mountains, Marshall VFR across southern Alaska, southern Kuskokwim Valley, and into the southern Copper River Basin, Prince William Sound, about Yakutat, east of Yakutat actually, and IFR over Kodiak Island, marginal Fognak Island, Montague Island right on the edge, and VFR for the Panhandle in the interior, central and east side. And then for the Monday afternoon forecast, we've got risk of a thunderstorm, Wrangell Mountains, and on up to, say Chena, that area, Chena Ridge, and but just a risk, slight chance. Otherwise, IFR now south of Montague Island, and well off the southeast coast, but holding over the North Slope and Arctic coast of the Bering Strait. IFR, Bering Sea, and Aleutians, although Unalaska Island becoming marginal, Alaska Peninsula marginal, Bristol Bay, Aleutian Range, marginal VFR into Kodiak, or VFR Kodiak Island, marginal for Cook Inlet, and marginal VFR to the Kuskokwim Mountains, southern Kuskokwim Valley, eastern Norton Sound. And then for the morning Tuesday, IFR still locked in Arctic coast and North Slope, also the northwest interior. Now it's into the possibly northwestern Kobuk Valley, Selawik Valley, and the northwest coast, all the way down the coastline to Bristol Bay, and maybe some marginal VFR there for the eastern Aleutians. Otherwise, IFR for the remainder of the area. IFR, Gulf of Alaska, right up to the coastline of the Panhandle. Marginal VFR pushing inland a little bit, and marginal VFR south and east of the Alaska Range, with the exception of Kodiak Island. And for Tuesday afternoon, marginal VFR southwest Kodiak Island, VFR right up into Cook Inlet, Kuskokwim Valley, Alaska Range, Copper River Basin, Madawaska-Susitna Valley, into the Yukon Flats, and southern slopes of the eastern Brooks Range, North Slope Arctic coast, basically IFR, southwestward, Kotzebue Sound, most of the Kobuk Valley, Seward Peninsula, and the Bering Sea, pulling off the southwest coast now, the IFR zone, and the band across the Alaska Peninsula, but IFR from Atka to Shemya. Passes Anaktuvik tomorrow looking good. Both Anaktuvik and Adigan, they're VFR. Either approach. Lake Clark and Merrill, eastern entrance starting out marginal, becoming VFR during the morning hours. And for the Rainy Pass, west-east entrance through the pass, VFR. Same thing for Windy, looking good. Good VFR tomorrow. And wide open for Isabel and Mentasta. Good VFR, either approach, and Tanita, VFR. Portage starting out marginal, becoming VFR, hopefully, and Chilcoot and White, VFR. Freezing levels, very warm air mass over the panhandle there with 12,000 feet just east of Yakutat, while 32 degrees, say over Hyder, will occur tomorrow morning at 16,000 feet. Otherwise, by contrast, 6,000 feet for Kodiak and 4 to 6,000 feet southwest Bering Sea. Icing. Areas of mixed icing, central interior, tapering off as you head over toward the border, but a little more prevalent up toward the Brooks Range and out west. And then some icing possibilities out in the Bering Sea with a few surges of moisture there, Perlofs, Adak to Shimia. And look at the jet stream, kind of remnants of an upper level low, barely one, more of a trough there, just north and northwest of the Alaska Range. And another one, Kodiak Island, so southerly winds 75 to 80 knots there into the North Gulf Coast, as high as 90 knots across Deagle, and then northeast flow 70 knots along the Yukon Delta coast, and easterly northern Bering Sea, strong westerlies just south of the Aleutians, south 75 into the northern panhandle. 9,000 feet southwesterlies, got pretty good Arctic polar vortex kicking eastward, well north of the Arctic coast there, but big enough, large enough that you got 40 knot west-southwesterlies at 9,000 feet across the north slope to the Brooks Range, and even into the interior westerlies up to 25 knots, otherwise south 25 for the panhandle. 3,000 feet, 25 to 35 knot winds in the Bering Sea, 45 knots along the north slope. And look for areas of moderate chop there for the Brooks Range, north slope and the Arctic coast, back to the Seward Peninsula into the Bering Strait, and also for mainly the Adak area, all below 5,000 feet. After the break, I'll be back with a look at the marine forecast and some other interesting information.
You guys got everything tied down back there? Yeah. Yep. We're going through the lee of St. Elias, so there might be some turbulence.
Fasten seatbelt sign on.
Well, who am I to tell you what to do?
There are tens of thousands of glaciers in Alaska. Some stunning cliffhangers, others wide glaciers that come down to meet the ocean tides. Some, like this one we flew over in August, are easily visible from low Earth orbit and are mesmerizing from 1,000 feet above, and have trees growing on top of their soil-laden boundaries. Those glaciers, although they represent only a fraction of the world's ice, are contributing much more than their share to sea level rise. Chris Larson and his colleagues have repeatedly measured 220 of them in a small single-engine otter, measuring their height with lasers and their depth with radar, and watching them change from season to season and year to year. But Alaskan glaciers are also different. We're only just figuring out how they all behave. Data from flights like these, part of NASA's Operation Icebridge, can help fill the gaps. Chris and radar specialist Martine Trufer are both from the University of Alaska Fairbanks and both seasoned Alaskan pilots. But they rely on their good friend and legendary bush pilot Paul Kloss and his 35,000 hours in the cockpit to fly the incredibly demanding flight lines the mission requires.
And does it help you guys being pilots too?
I would like to think so, but watching Paul fly and seeing what he does, it's kind of like trying to learn quantum mechanics in kindergarten.
You know, I can fly my airplane around, but just seeing what Paul does in this extremely challenging environment in the mountains while trying to follow a specific flight line at a specific altitude above ground, negotiating winds, topography, maybe occasional low-level clouds that you have to get around, and just managing all that is just several levels above what I could do as a pilot.
Well, I think the first time I came here to this park, I was probably 4 years old with my father. I've been blessed to be able to fly in lots of places in the world, all over the place actually, almost every continent. I guess I'm always looking for some place that might be better than this, but I haven't found it.
Paul's plane is about 60 years old and is the first single-engine otter ever retrofitted with a 1,000 horsepower engine, which makes takeoffs feel effortless and gives Paul the ability to negotiate wild terrain, which he certainly did during the first 2 incredible science flights of this campaign. And with sunny skies and relatively calm air, we covered 3 vastly different pieces of ice. While Paul fueled up the plane, Chris gave us a preview of the day's science and scenery.
So it has one of the greatest coastal reliefs anywhere in the world. So it's between the ocean and the summit of Mount St. Elias, which is 18,008 feet high. It's less than 10 miles. There's a stupendous amount of mountain right off the ocean. It's hard to beat it anywhere in the world. It might be the prettiest for me. It's absolutely stunning. From here in McCarthy, we'll cross one of the bigger precipitation gradients in Alaska too. Here it's about 10 inches of precipitation a year, and we'll go over to an area where it's on the order of 200 inches per year. So it's from one of the driest parts of Alaska to one of the wettest parts of Alaska in about 45 minutes flight time.
Whoa, that's pretty good.
That's awesome. You want to do Tyndall next?
Sure, where you want?
If the winds are calm now, might as well grab it.
First, we came to the rugged landscape of Icy Bay, which not that long ago wasn't a bay at all. It was filled with ice. Tidewater glaciers in this region can make dramatic advances and retreats as they feed on high rates of snowfall and then retreat as they're melted by warm ocean waters. Like the Tyndall Glacier seen here, most of these glaciers have retreated dramatically over the last 100 years. But nearby Yahtzee Glacier, after years of retreat, is currently the most rapidly advancing glacier in Alaska. Overall, though, the Icebridge Alaska surveys, from the Denali region in the north to the Juneau ice field in the southeast, have documented pretty substantial thinning of glacial ice. Areas seen here in orange and red show between about 10 and 15 feet of thinning per year.
There's a nice waterfall up there from the hanging ice.
When we very first started profiling this, Paul, this gravel fan in the one in the valley next to it didn't exist.
Yeah, I was going to say,
this was
look at all the good landing spots here.
Yeah,
There's no place to land here before.
no, it was deep water.
After covering several of Icy Bay's glaciers, given that it was time for lunch, just like that, we landed in this unforgettable spot. Flying eastward, leaving Icy Bay behind, we came to the mighty Malaspina, one of the Earth's great examples of a Piedmont glacier that spills out like pancake batter onto a broad plain as it approaches the sea. It surges at uneven intervals, creating dramatic patterns on its surface as it distorts the moraines of rock and soil borne along by the glacier. The Malaspina is less dynamic than the Yahtzee and is only melting at about the average rate for Alaska, but that could change quickly.
It has the potential for being one of the bigger geographic evolutions in Alaska. Certainly my son will be able to witness some big geography changes there. There's potential for it being connected with the ocean through some narrow lagoons, estuaries, which would take a little bit of coastal erosion, but it's not too hard to imagine that where the Malaspina Glacier is now could become a large bay.
The data that Martine's radar provides could reveal how vulnerable the Malaspina is to melting by the nearby ocean. Here we see the radar returns from the surface of the glacier, And here is something that Chris's lasers can't see, the rocky bed of the glacier, giving us both clues as to what's happening under the ice, as well as a measurement of its thickness. Finally, we came to the Yakutat ice field, 300 square miles of absolutely doomed ice perched high in the mountains. Researchers even debate how this ice field came to be at all, since in its current configuration, it's hard to imagine how it could capture enough snow to form glacial ice. And so, even if the Arctic weren't warming faster than the rest of the planet, this area would be likely to melt within a century or two. But with many other glaciers, it's easier to see the connection between a warming planet and ice loss. Thanks to data from IceBridge and other surveys, we now have a good estimate of the current rate of loss from Alaskan glaciers, 75 gigatons a year. While airborne observations over Alaskan glaciers have provided a rich record of change in the area, those efforts are now augmented by NASA's newest ice measuring tool, ICESat-2. With 6 laser beams of its own, and orbiting the Earth every 90 minutes, the satellite will carry on the record of Alaskan change. For their part, Chris and his team will continue to do their surveys for at least the next 2 years, helping to validate the ICESat-2 data and make further detailed observations over the stunning glaciers of Alaska.
And now, marine weather around Alaska.
Welcome back. Or looking at the sea ice analysis today, just a narrow band of some shore-fast ice along the northwest coast there from south of Point Hope on down in toward Kotzebue Sound, and then starting to thin out there off the just to the northwest or north of Wainwright there, and also that area of thinner ice expanding westward just north of Kaktovik. Otherwise, coastal water forecasts. Let's go. There we go. Small craft advisories for the south coast of the Panhandle tomorrow. Northwest winds, 25 knots, seas 8 to 10 feet. Up to the north, northwest of 15, 5 to 6 foot seas. Stevens Passage, Clarence Strait, northwest 20 knots, 4 foot seas. Northwest 15 for Stevens Passage, and variable to south at 10 knots for Lynn Canal. Outlook for Tuesday, south 15 knots, Lynn Canal, central southern inside waters, call it northwest 10 to 15 knots, 2 to 3 foot seas. Small craft advisories go from 25 to 30 knots out of the north, a tightening gradient there across the Panhandle, especially along the coast. So 30 knot northerly winds, 9 to 11 foot seas. Small craft advisories on the north coast, 25 out of the northwest, and west-northwest 20 knots on the extreme north coast. And for Cook Inlet and Kamishak Bay, all west tomorrow, variable to west, 10 knots, pretty light seas, only 3 feet, and west 20 knots for the Barren Islands, 4 foot seas. North Gulf Coast, westerlies 10 to 15 knots, 4 foot seas. Prince William Sound, west winds at 10 knots, with seas at 2 feet. And no change to Prince William Sound on Tuesday. Winds stay light out of the west with slight seas. Cook Inlet, southwest breeze, 10 knots, 2 foot seas. Kamishak Bay, west of 20, all of the North Gulf Coast west of 20 with 5 foot seas, and small craft advisories now for the Barren Islands, southwest of 25. And then for Kodiak Island, 15 to 20 knot winds tomorrow out of the southwest, seas maybe 4 feet. Otherwise, Sitkinak to Cape Sarachev, southwest at 10 with 4 foot seas there for the Pacific side of the Alaska Peninsula. Topside, 10 knots from the south all the way up into Bristol Bay with slight seas. And then those winds kick up with that front, possibly gales, but right now 30 knots, you cover it pretty good. Out of the southeast with the front pressing in toward False Pass, 7 to 8 foot seas, and then Bristol Bay south at 10. And small craft advisories, Kodiak Island, southwest winds 25 knots. And going to the eastern Aleutians, Fox Islands, Unalaska Island, southeast 20 knots, Umak Island, southeast 25 to 30 knots, southeast 30 knots, Adak and Atka, 15 knots, Amchitka, northeast at 20, Kiska, Shimei, and Attu. And moving on to the Tuesday outlook, small craft advisories there from Kiska to Shimei, northerlies 25 knots, and much lighter, a little more variable, Amchitka Island, southeast 10 knots, and then Adak and Atka laying down to 15 knots from the southeast, 15 to 20 knots Umak Island. But south side of Unalaska Island, we have gale warnings, southeast 35 knots with 13 foot seas. And then for the southwest coast, light winds tomorrow from the south, 10 knots. St. Lawrence Island, not too bad either. South at 15, 3-foot seas. Norton Sound southwest at 10. And St. Matthew, St. Lawrence, and St. Paul Island, northwest winds, 10 knots, 3 to 4-foot seas. Outlook for Wednesday, swing the winds there around to the southeast, coming up to 25 knots. St. Paul and St. George for small craft advisories. St. Matthew Island up to 15. And Yukon Delta Coast, southeast 15. And south of Nunivak Island, southeast 20. Small craft advisories, St. Lawrence Island, south winds increasing to 25 knots, and southwest 20 for Norton Sound. Let's see, central, eastern, Boulevard Sea Coast, brisk wind advisories, west-southwest 25 knots for tomorrow, and then northwest 25 for small craft advisories, western Arctic coast down to north 25 to Cape Thompson, but Cape Thompson to Wales, southwest at 30 knots with 7-foot seas with that front. And then kind of a swing around there. We've got southwest 35 there is for the area from Wales to Cape Thompson. So gale warnings there, and then 20 knots out of the northeast, Cape Thompson to Cape Beaufort, and then west 10 to 15, western central Arctic coast, and west-southwest 15 to 20 on the east side. And for tonight, here comes a front responsible for the wind starting to press down up there, bringing a little bit of moisture, rain or snow, depending on your temperature, obviously. And lingering showers, eastern Arctic coast, eastern North Slope into the eastern Brooks Range. And then basically dry and variably cloudy over the interior, isolated showers, western Alaska Range, and out toward the southwest coast, Yukon Delta. A couple of bands of moisture out over the Bering Sea, the stronger one just ahead of that front, Adak and Atka, and dry for the Panhandle.
These forecasts are for planning purposes only. Call 1-800-WX-BRIEF for a formal pre-flight briefing. Always file a flight plan before you go flying. The U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary urges you to leave a float plan with a friend or the harbor master before you go boating.